Hey everybody, welcome back to Not an Option Podcast, episode 8. Hope everybody's been tuning in. If not, go back and watch the first 7 episodes, get caught up. We talked about a lot of good and exciting things. Not an Option Podcast started from this book, Not an Option. It's about my life growing up and some of the eventful incidents that have happened to me throughout my life. It's a good read. It's on Amazon if you want to. I'm not trying to sell the book. I'm just glad you guys are tuning into the podcast. But again, Not an Option. Here's the book. The author name is Frank Antonio. It's not my name. It's Frank Antonio is the author. And pick it up on Amazon. It's a good read. So today, for episode 8, we're going to be talking about customers, general contracting business. Some customers are great. They are amazing. Some customers are not so amazing and they can drive you a little bit crazy. And then you have customers that are just absolute nightmares. They don't mean to be, but they are nightmares, and we're going to get into all that. Well, some of them do mean to be, and they're just a pain in the ass, but others don't mean to be. It's just a big project for them, and they can drive you absolutely nuts. But we're going to talk about how you deal with all of these issues, how you deal with these different types of customers, jump into situations that I've encountered over the past 30 years of doing construction. Some customers will make you fall in love with this business, and some will make you want to burn your license and walk away from this shit. They'll drive you nuts. If you've been a contractor long enough, you know this. You're not just building projects, you're managing personalities, emotions, and sometimes fucking pure chaos. I call it controlled chaos, but it's just pure chaos. So this episode today is going to be about the real experience of being a GC and dealing with both dream clients and nightmare customers. We're going to be talking about how the people side of this business can impact your profit, your stress, your team, and even your family. You bring the shit home to your family, you drive them nuts, you're stressed out, you're coming home aggravated, and we're gonna talk more about that because this does not just impact you, it does not just impact your team, but it does impact your family. And you can be great at construction and still be miserable if you don't know how to handle different types of customers. Learning this stuff keeps you from hating your own business, and you will hate this business the more you get on. Not only are the employees sometimes like managing grown adults and babysitting, but the customers can really make you hate this business sometimes. And it's not good because it's a great business. I've done really well with it. I know a lot of contractors that do really well with it, but they not only learn how to deal with their workers and their subcontractors, one of the main things you have to learn how to do is deal with your customers. Like I said, in my book that I mentioned a little while ago, a lot of these lessons came from stories that I actually shared in my book. If you haven't grabbed it yet, check it out on Amazon. Send me a comment, a DM with your best customer from hell story, or your best dream client story. I like to interact with my followers. Again, for following, like and subscribe. Smash that like button and subscribe and share this podcast with your friends. I want this thing to grow. I'm putting a lot of effort into this and I really want this thing to grow. I talk about a lot of different things on here: business, construction business, personal stories, life lessons, and I'll talk about whatever you guys really want to engage about. So, check it out. Now that you're on here, like it, subscribe, and please share it with your friends. If you like it, please share it. That's all I'm asking you to do. And what I want you to do again is send in, DM me or send a message to me about a dream client you had or about a nightmare customer that you had. And as you listen to this podcast today, think about one customer right now, good or bad, and how that changed how you run your business. And I'm sure everybody has that one customer you can think of that changes how you ran your business. Well, I have many, but I have one. He's a great friend of mine now. We actually became business partners. He's invested in my company quite a few times. The man is amazing. I met him when he was about a week and a half away from a huge 4th of July party that he was having at his house. And he had an elderly guy that had been working on his deck for about 4 months. And he was about to not be able to have his party. And he called us up and the boards were ran incorrectly. They weren't connected correctly. It wasn't secured properly. The deck boards that were on there were on the wrong way. I know it's hard to say, unless you know construction, you'll know what I'm saying. There's things called joists that the boards were on. He had some with the crown up of the board. He had some with the crown down, which means there's a curve on joists. And if you don't run them all the same direction, you have dips and valleys in the deck. So anyway, this was a huge wraparound deck. This was before there were hidden screw systems. So he called me up, he got my number, he called me up, and we started talking, and I had a week and a half to do about a month worth of work. So me and my team, 4 guys at the time, we jumped on that deck, and we worked round the clock 7 days a week, and we tore the whole other deck down, and we rebuilt his deck, and we actually had to make our own hidden screw system, and we told them we could do it by making plugs, and we had to countersink all the screws, and then we made our own plugs out of deck boards and plugged all the holes where we countersink all the screws. I know I'm talking like a lot of construction lingo here. So anyway, we worked 7 days a week round the clock to get this deck done, and we got it done. We got it done with like a day to spare. He was so impressed and so happy. He wound up becoming a great mentor of mine, and he owned a very successful forklift parts company, and he came from Germany with his parents, lived in a small apartment in Chicago, and came from nothing. I mean, the guy built his whole empire by himself with his father and his brother, and he started as a young kid helping his dad building the forklift parts in his kitchen. And anyway, he turned that company into a 8-figure company, and sold it, made a great amount of money, and we became great friends from this project. We actually became partners. We owned a lot of apartments in Chicago. We've done several businesses together with construction, and I wouldn't be where I'm at today without this man. He's been a mentor to me. When I broke my neck several years ago and had a bad accident, and I was told I could never do the work again because I tore all the ligaments in both my shoulders and I broke my neck in a boating accident, I was scared. I was nervous, and I didn't know how the hell I was gonna support my family, because since I was 13 years old, all I knew was construction or hustling. And I knew I couldn't go back to hustling because I had a family now. I was 26 and I was scared, but I reached out to him, and once he found out what happened to me, he told me point blank, he's like, now I'm going to teach you how to go from a construction worker to a business owner. And those words changed my life. Honest to God, they changed my fucking life. I would not be in the position I'm at today. Family wouldn't have what we have today. My life wouldn't be where it's at today without that man and those words. And he did. He showed me how to become a better businessman. And I'm eternally, forever in debt and grateful to this man. He's an amazing person. And that's just one story of how meeting that one client, helping that one good person out, can become a life changer for you and your company. And he referred us to everybody. We got a ton of work. We did a lot of work together. We did a lot of rehabs and apartment conversions and stuff like that, home renovations. Like I said, one of the greatest men I've ever met. So I'm sure you guys all have a story similar to that, or have a customer that's changed your life. That's my story of what changed my life and made me the person I am today. And I'm forever grateful, and I owe that guy my life. So getting back to our topic, customers. In reality, in this field, you're not just building houses, you're managing human beings. If it was just lumber and concrete, most contractors would be rich and calm. It's the humans that make things interesting. And when I say interesting, I mean really interesting. The emotional side of the projects is overwhelming sometimes. People are spending big money in their homes with their routines disrupted, and of course, they get emotional. They're attached to the project, and when I say they're spending big money, it's all relative. Sometimes they're spending everything they have to rehab their project, and it could still barely be enough for you to make a profit. So tensions are high because you're trying to make a profit with whatever they have to afford. You don't want to turn good people away sometimes, because it's not all just about money, it's about helping people a lot of the times. But you take the project, you're dealing with a large sum of their money, you're trying to make a profit, they're emotionally attached, they fucking are on you 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Sometimes if you don't set those boundaries, you're not just a builder, you're a therapist, a referee, you're a punching bag some days. Clients think HGTV and Pinterest all the time is reality, and you're dealing with building codes, delays, budgets, inspections, and sometimes they just don't get it, that it's not like HGTV. It's not, like whatever that show was about, build this house or whatever, and they build a house, they rehab a house in 7 days, or they build a home in 7 days, move that bus. That's so much bullshit. There's so many months of setting up and getting that house and all those people ready to get that done. Don't believe all that. And a lot of customers think, oh, if they could build a house in 7 days, why is my job gonna take 7 weeks or 8 weeks? There's a lot that goes into what we have to do, and a lot of it goes unappreciated. But you're dealing with a full range of customers. Some are super chill, they're respectful, they're trusting, and then you got your micromanagers, your bargain hunters, and your Google experts, the ones that Google a topic and they're the fucking authority on it now. And why do they need you? Actually, they Googled everything, but in reality they don't have any field experience, so they need you. And like I said, they're not bad people. They're just looking out for their best interest. You're trying to get the job done, do a beautiful job, and make a profit, and just sometimes it gets frustrating and stressful. It gets really stressful sometimes. And when I say stressful, I mean to the point where you don't even know why you want to do this business anymore, because shit rolls downhill. The customer's stressing you out, you're stressing out your guys and your workers and your subcontractors, and like I said, and your family and people around you. They notice that you're stressed and you're bringing the stuff home and you're working from home and you're answering the phone when you're supposed to be spending time with your family because the customer doesn't have boundaries and they just call you constantly. I had one project where we were doing carpet tiles in a commercial building, and the owner was this extremely wealthy middle-aged guy, but he was a fucking nightmare. He called me when I told him I was going on vacation, and all we were doing was laying stupid fucking carpet tile. We knew what we were doing. We knew how to do it. We explained to him that the process, he was okay with it. And I am not exaggerating when I tell you I was on vacation with my wife and 2 sons. We were at the Grand Canyon. We were gone for 2 weeks, and I told him I wasn't gonna be available. We were doing a remodel of one of his retail locations, and we were at the part where we just had to install the carpet tile. And this is one of those guys that worries about everything. He had a brother that was his partner, and the brother was the brains of the operation, but he handled all the big stuff, and he let his brother, the one I was dealing with, handle the renovation project. And this was a guy that just freaked out about everything and wanted to impress his brother and show his brother that he was actually worth something. But in reality, I'm gonna say it, the guy was useless. He was a pain in the ass. He drove me fucking nuts, but there was such a bigger picture of work that can come, and I was hoping eventually I could just deal with his brother and not him anymore. But again, I was on vacation. It was our first day of vacation. We're driving and we're at the Grand Canyon. He called me in one day 37 times. 37 times in one day about fucking carpet tile. It was a nightmare. But I could easily have told him to go fuck himself and his job and walk away, but I chose to try to stick it out and get the job done and calm him down, there was no calming this guy down. Once he got on a tangent, he went nuts. And not only did he go nuts, all he kept doing was throwing up in your face of how many millions of dollars he was worth and how that he didn't need us, I needed him, and this and that. Very rude, very disrespectful person, liked to yell and scream until you were in his face. And I told him I was gonna crack his head one day, and that calmed all that shit down when I got back from my vacation. But it took me having to physically threaten this guy to get him to calm down. He was that much of a fucking nightmare. I did not want to do that. I tried every way possible to calm him down. I let him yell and scream at me. I let him yell at me one time through the phone so much that my wife was staring at me and my sons wondering, Dad, why are you letting this guy talk to you like this? And I was trying to look at the bigger picture. Oh, this guy's got tons of money. Him and his brother do a lot of work. They own a lot of properties. There's a ton of work possible here. But at the end of the day, we finished that first project. They were very happy. And I told him, unless I'm dealing with your brother, I never want to deal with you again. You're a nightmare. You're a terrible person. And I don't care how much money you have. It's not worth the stress and aggravation of dealing with you. And I walked away from him. And obviously I didn't talk to his brother. He told his brother his version of the story. So I never did any more work with them. But my life turned out okay. way. Maybe I don't have the, hundreds of millions of dollars that he has. Hopefully I will have that one day, but right now I don't have that. But I'm a lot happier than that guy. That guy was just a fucking prick. And I hope he watches this one day and he sees how much of a prick he was, because he actually taught me so much about construction, of who I don't want to deal with, that now whenever I see somebody going down that direction, I put an end to it. We have a nice heart-to-heart, in-person conversation, and we either decide right away if we're going to do the job or not, and either I walk away or I do the job. But I never will let anybody talk to me the way this guy thought he could talk to me. And he was a little guy, a little squirrely, never worked out, made a lot of money, middle-aged guy, and honest to God, it took me telling him in his face, if you ever talk to me the way you did again, especially with my family listening, I will crack your fucking head from ear to ear. And that probably was not what I should have did, but fuck it, that's what I did. And that's what it came to. And it made my life a lot simpler because I never dealt with the guy again. I kind of put my cards on the table and basically wanted him to not want to work with me because I did not want to work with him. His brother's a great guy. I've talked to his brother several times, but he just won't step on his other brother's toes and hire me to do work. So that ended the relationship. But I did fine in life without that guy and all his money and all his bullshit. And so will you. Don't let anybody ever disrespect you, degrade you, humiliate you, or anything for a job. It's a job. You work to live. You don't live to work. Remember that. And when you have jobs like that, you're allowing someone to control your whole life. I mean, I was on vacation with my family and this fucking guy called me almost 40 times in one day. And that's unacceptable. And it wasn't like, hey, I'm just checking in. Hey, how's your vacation going? Or hey, your guys are doing great. It was him. He actually worried that we were putting too much glue down on the floor and it was going to cause mold and cause his workers to get lung diseases and this and that. And I'm like, you hear yourself? You're going crazy. You're thinking 10, 20 years down the road for something that's not even happening right now. We're not using too much glue. It's not going to get mold. Your employees and your customers aren't going to die from your carpet. You're going way off the deep end. Let me do my job. And he would not let us do our job without him having to feel like he had to micromanage us and degrade us. And those are the types of customers we're going to be talking about here, along with the good ones. How many of you guys have had jobs where you thought this job would be perfect if it wasn't for this customer? And that's what that situation for me was. It would have been a perfect situation if it wasn't for this one particular guy. Sometimes you can fix it. Sometimes you could have a heart-to-heart. Sometimes you could have a come-to-Jesus meeting with these guys and work it out. And sometimes you just got to stand up for yourself and calmly walk away. Now, I didn't calmly walk away. I said some stuff I probably shouldn't have said. I'm a lot older now, and I wouldn't have said it now in this point in my life, 20 years later. But when I was, in my 20s, and there's no way I'm being disrespected by a guy like this, it wasn't happening. I was not letting this guy talk to me that way. And I highly suggest you never let your customers do that to you. I mean, I tell my customers right from the beginning, I'm like, look, my guys are human, I'm human. The job might not go perfect, we might make a mistake, but I promise you, before I leave your job and before you pay me the final payment, you're going to be 1,000% happy. If you're not 1,000% happy, then you don't pay me the final payment. If we're getting to a point, you don't pay me progress payments to get to certain points if you're not 1,000% happy. Until we talk about it, discuss it, and get it figured out, I don't want their money. I want their return business. I want their friends and their family's business. So I want to make sure all my customers are 1,000% happy. And it's not always the easiest fucking thing to do, but good contractors can get it done. They can make their customers 1,000% happy. And that's my motto for my guys, for my company, for myself, is I want all my customers to always be 1,000% happy. Does it always happen? No. Has it cost me tens and tens of thousands of dollars to fix problems and mistakes that we've made over the years? Yeah, I'm human. I had to learn this business somehow, and it cost me a lot of money to do that. And I'm sure you guys all have stories of where it's cost you tons of money to get the job done right. Or if you're a scumbag, you walked away from a job and didn't finish it correctly. But the right thing to do is finish the job, spend the money out of your pocket, and bet on the come. Hopefully you don't make any money on this job, but hopefully you get their referral because you fixed it and you made them happy in the end, and they refer you you to their friends and family. And that's how you grow your business. All right, let's talk about the good customers. What great customers actually look like? They are people that want to be your teammate during the project. They are people that they want to allow you to do what they hired you for. You know, before we bash just the bad customers, let's be honest. There are customers who make you want to over deliver. And, you know, they're out there, and there's a lot of them out there. And traits of some of the good customers, or I should say great customers, they're respectful, they communicate clearly, they trust your expertise, like I was saying, they listen when you explain the process, the price, and the timeline. They treat your crew like humans, not disposable labor. You don't know how many customers we've worked for that cook for my crew on a daily basis. We don't ask them to, we don't even expect it. You know, we're very thankful and gracious over it, but they love us because we're taking care of their home, we're taking care of their project, we're taking care of their inconveniences in their life right now, and they cook 2-3 meals for my guys while they're working. They don't treat them like they're disposable labor, and it really helps the process. It makes these jobs feel a lot less stressful, less drama, and there's a lot more fun on the job sites. You find yourself doing a lot of little extras because you want to. You want to make sure that that customer is 1,000% happy. I want all my customers to be 1,000% happy, whether, you know, they're nice or not. But the great customers make you want them to be 10,000% happy. You want to go so far above and beyond, you know? And the upside of that, having great customers and keeping great customers, is referrals, repeat business, good reviews, fewer disputes. When they have another project that they want to get done, they don't think of calling anyone else but you. That's the upside of having great customers. And that's how you grow your business. So I shared one story earlier of my great friend that is like a mentor to me that I did his deck project. I've got so many stories that I can share, good and bad. Another customer was this elderly lady. She was the president of the HOA for a condo association. And she got a referral for us to come do some work on her house. And we went and did some painting work and some drywall repair work on her house. And she was in a south suburb of Chicago. And the lady was amazing. We got to know her husband, we got to know her daughter, we got to know her whole family, and we were only there for about a week or two. But we got to know them, and our work stood out so much, and the way we presented ourselves and the way we took care of her home stood out so much that 3 months later, they were doing a whole renovation on a 400-unit condo building, a condo subdivision that she lived in. And guess who got referred to do the job and got the job? And it wound up being a $3.5 million project. This guy. And we did that whole project. It started off with certain types of projects we were doing in hallways. Then not only did we do that project, but we got to meet all the other tenants in the 400 units because we had to do small amounts of work in their unit as part of the scope of work. And then we wound up doing probably another $1.5 million worth of work in these condos for the individuals that owned them. And that's all because we did a good job for the first lady in her house on a small, maybe $10,000, $5,000, you know, drywall, painting, and a little bit of flooring and tile job that we did for her. But we stood out above all the other people that she's ever used. And we made a friend out of her, and not even knowing who she was or that there was a project coming up in 3 to 4 months. And she called us and asked if we'd be interested in putting a bid in on it. We put our bid in, and we wound up getting the project. And it wound up being a 2-year project for about $3.5 or $4 million. I don't remember. Plus all the extra work we got from the other units. So it just paid off being diligent, being respectful, and being very big on integrity and getting their job done and keeping the customer 1,000% happy. Can you picture your favorite customers right now? Think about it. What made them different from everyone else? What made that customer stand out to you? You know, think about those. And if you haven't talked to those customers in a while, maybe give them a call. Maybe stop by their house, see how everything is going. Maybe see if there's anything that they need done that you could take care of for free. You know, something small like a leaky faucet or something. Just stay in their heads, you know? It's good business. Take care of those great customers and keep in contact with them, because sometimes we become out of sight, out of mind with those customers. But as soon as you contact them, they start thinking of all their friends that might need some work done. Or next time they're sitting down with their friends and family and someone says that they're looking to remodel their house or a bathroom or a kitchen, right away they're going to think of you again. So stay in contact with those people. It's good business. It's good practice. Now let's talk about some of these tough clients. Red flags and customer that just drain you. Nightmare customers rarely show up with a sign around their neck. The red flags are there. You just don't want to see them at the beginning. You don't want to believe that this person is this bad. You always give them the benefit of the doubt. And they come in many different forms. I call them the tough customer types. There's the micromanager. On site every day, second guessing everything you do, hovering over the crew constantly, not giving us any room to work, not giving us any room to breathe, questioning every single thing you do and wondering why it's not what they saw on YouTube or Google. They're very difficult to work around, those types of people. When you have that micromanager and they're hovering over you and they're questioning you and second guessing you, it honestly makes the job so much less fun. Then you have the bargain hunter, always asking for a lower price, always asking for a lower price, always wanting to barter and negotiate, comparing you to some guy who can do it cheaper, but they want the full service from you with having a crew, having project managers. They want what you have, given your previous customers that have recommended you to them, but they want it cheaper and they want it for nothing. And they don't expect you to make a profit. They expect you and your company and your overhead to do it for two hillbillies and a bucket of tools down the road that gave them a quote that are going to take 5 times, 10 times as long. They're going to give them the price they want to hear when they come in the door. But then while they got their whole house ripped apart, they extra them to death. They hit them with every single change order. And now that customer feels stuck with this guy. So they feel that they have to pay the change orders. And they wind up paying more than if they would have just hired you with better quality, better timelines, and better strategies in the very beginning. Then there's the ghost flip customers. They're nice at the start, and then everything turns hostile when the bill comes or when something goes wrong. Those customers are a little bit easier to deal with because they're nice in the beginning and you know that they have it in them, but they're like a two-faced person. When that happens and they become hostile with you over the bill, or if something goes wrong and they can't understand that you're human and they can't understand that the bill is part of the process, they have to pay their bill to keep the work going, it again makes the job go a lot more stressful and a lot less fun. Red flags to look for in the first meeting is trash talking every previous contractor that they had. If you get a person that trash talks every single contractor, it just has a negative attitude. They're like, we've had bad experiences before, but we're hoping you're different, with a weird tone to their voice. You probably want to run because, there's bad contractors out there and there's a lot of people that have been taken advantage of, but there's also, like I said, bad customers. And sometimes if you feel it in your gut that this wasn't a lot of bad contractors that ruined this person, it was just a tough customer that nobody can please, you might want to run from this job. And that's just the truth. You might not want to fucking do this job. You might want to run. Then there's the other type of red flag customers, the ones that are obsessed with price and speed and almost have zero questions about process and quality. And those are difficult, and they're usually the house flippers. And I don't want to categorize everybody, but we get that a lot with people flipping houses. They overpay for the house, they are taking hard money loans or whatever their situation is, and all they care about is price and speed. And we have a saying in this business, there's 3 things you can get: quality, speed, and cheap. But you can only pick 2 of them. So you're only gonna get quality and speed, but you gotta pay for it. It's not gonna come cheap. Or you can get quality and cheap, but you're not gonna get speed. Or you can get speed and quality. I already said that. You're not gonna get cheap. Or you can get speed and cheap, but you're definitely not gonna get quality. And they have to learn that. And you have to tell them that from the beginning. Why we ignore these flags sometimes though, these red flag customers, is ego. You think, I can handle them. Oh, I can take care of them. I'll change them. You are not changing that fucking person. You're out of your mind. Or it won't be that bad. It's gonna be that bad. It's probably gonna be worse. So get that in your head now. Or the number one is probably, I need the job. I need the money. I need the work for my guys. I need the money coming in for my family. I can deal with this. Man, as you build your business, you can see you'll be able to walk away from jobs and red flag customers. And that's important, being able to walk away from those red flag customers and those red flag jobs. We've all had red flag customers like that. I had one lady one time, she told me right from the beginning 2 things. After we started her project, everything was going well. She was a sex therapist, and we were building out her commercial space for her new therapy office. And she told me right from the beginning that she was a lesbian and a hugger. She didn't shake hands. Well, I always had my female assistant with me, and she would always try to hug me. And I'm not real comfortable hugging women because there's just so much that can get brought into physical contact. You know, it could be taken as affection. It could be so misleading or misguiding. And she always would want to hug me. So I'd always kind of just give her the side hug, you know, and never a big full-on hug. I just give her like the side hug. And when the bill came, sure as shit, she got upset. And she started complaining about everything and bitching about how the guys were not getting the job done fast enough and how the work wasn't what she was expecting it to be. Now take it, all the way up until the bill came, all I got were phone calls about how happy she was and how the guys are working so many hours and they're getting it done and she couldn't be happier. But as soon as the bill came, she turned into a nightmare. Well, I found out that her girlfriend was a city employee and she thought she was going to have her girlfriend cause me a lot of problems with getting other permits and jobs in the city that we were working in Chicago. Well, her girlfriend then accused me of being inappropriate and always wanting to hug her girlfriend. And I was like, you're out of your fucking mind. I was like, I tried shaking your girlfriend's hand from day one and she told me she was a hugger. And the thing that saved my ass was I always had my female personal assistant with me that knew I wasn't a scumbag, knew I was not inappropriate. So she spoke up for me. Then my wife actually had to get involved and had to get on a conversation with the girlfriend and put her in her place. And lo and behold, not only did she not want to pay the bill, she started wanting to hire my subcontractors behind my back to finish the job. She started wanting to not pay me. She started reporting me to the city and calling the inspectors in. I was cool with all the inspectors. I've done hundreds of jobs in Chicago. We knew a lot of the inspectors, so they would show up, they'd listen to her, they'd look around and tell her that there's nothing that she's talking about that's a problem. Long story short, we didn't finish the job. She wound up keeping my tools, holding them hostage, not giving me my tools back. I had to send one of my guys down there to go get the tools. It turned into a nightmare. We walked away, lost money, but I learned a valuable lesson. You know, I just learned that people can change when that bill comes, and it's how you handle it. And I never disrespected her. I never got rude or disrespectful again with her. We kept it professional and we gave her nothing to stand on. Of course, she wanted to sue me and she wanted to bring my company up on charges and accuse me of things, but she couldn't do anything because she had nothing to stand on. It all came down to she never told her girlfriend what this was going to cost. When the bill came, she had to show it to her girlfriend to get permission to pay me. Her girlfriend didn't want to pay a bill for that size. And at the end, it wasn't our fault. I could walk away from that with a clear conscience knowing that I didn't do shit wrong and we were just put in a bad situation. And we walked away and never heard from each other again. Thank God, because they were both a fucking nightmare after the job started. And I thank my assistant at the time and my wife for getting involved and saving my character. And I appreciated that. There's so many other customers I can talk about like that, but that was probably the one where she tried to insult my integrity that bothered me the most, you know? You have to be honest with yourself. Have you ever seen those red flags and still said yes because you wanted the money? Then you got to rethink that whole train of thought, because this business is not just about money. It's about relationships and it's about quality and integrity. And I'm sorry, some of these red flag customers you can't give, no matter how much integrity, how much quality, and how much you try to build that relationship, they're just nightmares and you have to walk away at some point. And it's better to do it sooner than later. It's better to do it before the job starts and go with your gut if you feel it and not worry about the money. One thing you definitely want to do is set the expectations up front. You know, from contracts to communication to boundaries to timelines, quality control. You want to set those expectations up front. Most customer problems aren't random. They're the result of expectations you didn't set early enough. And that falls on you. You need to set those expectations from the very beginning. The better you set those expectations, the easier the job runs for you. Is it going to go stress-free? No. You know, the power of a real conversation before signing is huge. You got to have that real conversation with that person and set those boundaries and set those expectations. You have to walk that customer through the process. Let them know during demo there's going to be noise and dust. There's going to probably be some type of a delay, especially in remodeling projects. You never know what you're going to deal with every new thing you open up or work on. There may be change orders. You know, if you open stuff up and you find new problems, there's probably going to be a change order. It causes more money being involved. And they don't ever like hearing that, but that's why you have to set those expectations up front. Let them know, you know, have a contingency amount set aside for change orders. There's going to be inspections, you know, from the cities and from the inspectors, and you can't control when they show up or if they are having a bad day and choose to fail you for every fucking thing under the sun. Your payments, how they pay you, when they pay you, you know, what your payment expectations are. You have to set those things up clearly and explain what you expect from them. You know, access to the property. You need decisions to be made on time, a proper payment schedule. You know, you need to have all that stuff set up. You need to set up your contracts for the scope of work. You need to have a clear scope of work. You need to have a clear contract that protects you and lays everything out. And your contract should also protect the customer. You know, if you have integrity and you're doing things the right way, your contract should not only protect you, it should protect your customers. A clear scope of work and a payment schedule and a change order process, and having all that in writing of what's included, what's not included, what you're expecting for your payment schedule, you know, how your change orders work, how your timelines work, how delays may affect the project, and, you know, and how change orders may affect the budget when stuff, unforeseen things happen. It's not just putting it in writing, isn't just for your protection, it's for their protection also. And it is what it is, you know, it's there. You need to have all this in writing and make sure that's included. It is what it is. You have to have that. Great communication habits are huge in this industry. When and how you communicate, whether it's weekly updates, text versus email versus phone calls, what's acceptable. I'm a phone call person, but all my phone calls are followed up with a text message or an email from my office to put everything in writing that we discussed, so there's no gray areas later on. You know, set those rules up front. You're going to communicate with them, but through proper time frames. You're going to communicate with them once a week, twice a week, once every 2 weeks. You're going to send them pictures, you know, every few days or once a week or every 2 weeks. You set that up from the beginning. You let them know, you can text me at 11 o'clock at night. Don't expect me to immediately answer you. And I don't appreciate being texted at 11 o'clock at night unless something's on fire or there's an emergency. So set that up from the beginning. And the more you set up those boundaries and those guidelines, the smoother the job goes for both parties. And I've done that my whole life. You know, I used to not do that when I was younger, I should say, but in my more recent time frames, I've done that. I've set up boundaries, and my customers, they'll call me at 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, and I screen the phone calls. If it's not emergency, they hear back from me the next business day. If it's an emergency, they'll hear back from me immediately. But I set those boundaries from the beginning. But like I said, I didn't always do that. You know, I remember one project that we were working on where we didn't set the boundaries up front, and we were doing a $500,000 addition on a house. We were going up a story. We took the front and back off the house. We went forward 10 feet. We went back 20 feet, and we dug the basement out 10 feet, and we changed a 1,400 square foot bungalow into a 4,000 square foot mansion. And it was beautiful. We finished the project, but I didn't set those boundaries, and I paid for it. Not only did this customer have him and his wife, during the middle of the project, they actually hired an interior decorator and designer to come in on board to help them finish the project. Well, we discussed the project, we did everything up front, but I didn't set those boundaries. I didn't make good communication on change orders and costs that are affected in change orders. And this particular job, when the interior designer came in, I'm gonna say a number here and you're gonna shit your pants. When we did this job, we had over 500 change orders from the interior designer. Not 10, not 20, not 100, not 300. We had over 500 change orders from this interior designer. They wanted out, the drywall was up when the interior designer came in, and they were just supposed to pick colors and finishes and fixtures and all the fancy shit. No, they wanted lights moved that were can lights, and there was over 200 can lights in this house. They wanted all the can lights moved 6 inches. They wanted outlets relocated. They wanted showers that were on the left wall changed over to the right wall because of sunlight in the windows. They had over 500 change orders. Well, I had to explain to this customer that was in love with this interior designer that we'll do whatever you want, but I gotta rip all the drywall down. I have to move all these lights. I have to rip out out the tile and move the plumbing. I have to retile these things. And that $500,000 job turned into a $900,000 renovation. $400,000 in change orders. Did we finish the project? Yes. Did we get paid? Slowly, and they were very upset after the change order started. Did we get any referrals from them after that? No. Did the house come out amazing? Beautiful. It was in magazines, but not one fucking referral because they hated me. And it wasn't my fault. I did everything up to a certain point. Then they bring in their own interior designer. The interior designer goes goofy with the pencil and paper and drawing shit and changes the whole house, and I'm the bad guy. But it could have been set up from the beginning if they told me they were bringing a designer in. I could have been something I maybe could have avoided if I knew that. I maybe wouldn't have drywalled it, or I maybe would have had a meeting with the designer if I even knew there was going to be one involved. But it was my lack. I would take it on the chin. I'll say it was my lack of communication. I maybe from now on, I ask a lot of customers when I do big projects like that, are you going to have a designer now? And if they are, I want that designer talking to me from the beginning. On that particular project, I had no idea there was going to be a designer. It was never discussed with me. All of my meetings were with the homeowner and his wife. They were extremely happy until the designer got brought in. And you know what else happens with a designer? Oh, if he can't finish the project and do what I'm asking for, I know 4 other contractors that'll be more than happy to finish this. Hey, fuck you. You ain't taking over my project. I'm finishing what I started. And we did. We finished it. We worked out the price. I had to give them discounts on a lot of stuff because at 500 change orders, that $400,000 in change order cost should have been a lot more. You know, it sounds like, oh, you made $400,000 in change orders. We changed every square inch of the damn house. It was nuts. But it was a learning lesson. And like I said, now I always ask if they're going to have a designer or anybody else involved in the finishes, so I know up front everybody that I'm dealing with. And then there was other times that I've had, I'll give you one specific time with good communication up front. Not only saved the project, but made me become the only contractor for this hard money lender that they trusted. And I came into a job that I was referred to from the hard money lender. They asked me to look at a job that one of their clients had taken on, and they've been through 3 contractors and they were getting screwed over by all the contractors. The job was supposed to take 3 months. They were already going over a year on the time that it was taking to get the job done. And they asked me if I could step in, take a look at the house and see if it's worth saving this project. So I came in, discussed it with, it was an investor, discussed a bunch of different options with the investor up front, found out there wasn't going to be an interior designer, talked with them about different ways we could save money and speed up the timeline to get this thing finished for her. And we wound up getting the job. We wound up getting the job completed, and we wound up getting it done quicker than what I originally told her and on budget. And there were no change orders because everything was already ripped open, so we had already seen what we had to see. So she was extremely happy. Well, one of her family members worked with that hard money lender. That's how I got referred to her. Well, guess what I became? Every time there was an investor that this particular lender used, and they were one of the biggest lenders in Chicago, and the investor hired bad contractors and was falling behind, this particular lender told their investor the only way that they will keep their loan in place is if they hire me to finish the job. I made millions of dollars off doing those jobs over a course of 5 years. All right, while I'm telling you these stories, you know, I want you to take a little bit of time too and think about your last 3 jobs. Did you really set the expectations? Did you just send a number and hope for the best? You know, that's not the right way to do it. If you're not doing it where you're setting the expectations and the boundaries and you're just sending numbers and hoping for the best, like I said earlier, you're not going to change these people. Set those boundaries, set those expectations. Because when things go sideways, you got to handle the conflict without losing your cool. You can't avoid every problem, but how you handle the blowups is what builds or destroys your reputation. Typical conflict moments are like change orders, delays, subs messing up, material issues, inspections failing, customers think you overcharged or took too long, and there's certain ways you want to respond to that. Don't match their emotion. You want to stay calm, stay factual, and solution focused. Don't feed into the bullshit. You want to stay calm, factual, and solution focused. Remember that. Bring it back to the contract, the timeline, and the reality of construction. You want to offer them clear choices, and you need to know when to walk. Not all clients are fixable. You may need to finish what's owed to the customer and get what's owed to you and never go back. And you need to know when to do that. And that's real important, is knowing when to walk. And And you have to protect your crew from the abuse. No project is worth your crew's mental health because shit rolls downhill. If they affect your crew, which is unfair to them, your crew's gonna come back at you. Now you not only have the client bitching at you, you have your crew bitching at you. Have you ever won the argument but lost the relationship like I did and maybe the referral? I've done it. Have you ever done it? Think about it. You know, it's just a question I'm asking you to self-reflect. And was it worth it? Have you ever won the argument but you lost the relationship and you didn't get a referral? And if that happened, look at it, learn from it. You know, all this is about learning from stuff. It's not about you're a bad person or you fucked up. Just as long as you learn from it and don't repeat it, shit happens, you know? But you have to protect your team and your own sanity. Bad customers just don't drain you. They drain your crew, your subs, and your whole culture, your whole business, and your family life. You know, you have to protect yourself and you have to protect your crew. They're your responsibility. You need to shield your team. You need to protect them from this shit. You got to take the heat, not your guys. You handle the tough conversations. Don't put all the hard conversations on one of your guys. You know, oh, I have a main guy, that's his job. No, you got to handle those tough conversations because you're going to burn your main guy out. Make it clear to the clients that disrespecting your crew is a deal breaker. You got to talk honestly with your team and let them know what's going on with a tough customer so they don't internalize it and they're prepared for it. You know, you have to celebrate wins with good customers so the team feels the difference. Your team has to be on board with you. Your crew, your team, your subs, you have to be a lubricated machine. You know, you have to be a good running machine, and customers can really fuck that up, and you have to be the one that does not allow that. The job's hard enough sometimes, and when you bring customers in and you allow the customers to not only talk to your guys but degrade or belittle them, you're doing the wrong thing. You're not protecting your team, and that can cause mental health and burnout. You know, a string of bad customers can make you hate what you used to love. Building in breaks, saying no, and not stacking all the stress jobs at the same time. You have to build in breaks. You got to give these guys a mental health day. Not a day off, but maybe not put them on one stressful client after another. But hopefully after watching this video, hopefully you can differentiate from the nightmare customers and the good customers, and you don't have a lot of stacked up stressful jobs. And that'll help your crew's, you know, whole thought process and wanting to be at work. You have to do it. You know, I've got many stories where I've had to protect my crew. Many stories. I'm not going to get into them because this is getting pretty long, but I've always taken the weight. At the end of the day, the customer doesn't care about Joe Schmo that's doing the carpentry. If the job goes great, your company, Rick's company, did a great job. If the job goes bad, they don't say Joe Schmo did a bad job. It's Rick's company. Rick and his company did a bad job. And you have to bear the weight of that with the customer. And you have to own it. You know, if everything goes good, you celebrate it with that customer. If things are going bad or things don't go as planned, you take the weight on you. Don't allow that customer to get on your crew. It's not the right way to run your business. If your crew could vote on any of your customers, how many would they secretly want you to fire? You gotta really ask your crew that maybe one day. Be like, hey, if I could get rid of any of the customers we're dealing with right now, which ones would you want me to get rid of? This way you hear their input. You make them feel relevant. You make them feel like part of the company. And that's important. You know, make sure that you talk to your crew. You know, you're obviously not gonna fire a customer because your crew don't like them, but at least you get their input and they feel important and they feel listened to. And the main thing to get from this is the turning these customer experiences into systems and filters. Every good and bad customer you've had is data. The question is, are you using it or just surviving on this data? And you should be using it to change your future endeavors with other customers. You want to build a customer filter. Questions you can ask now in the first call or meeting. You want to know those questions. You want to ask what we talked about previously. You want to set those boundaries. You want to set up those meetings in that first call correctly. You want to make sure that they know there's non-negotiables where you just won't take the job if A, B, and C are going to be happening. You want to be updating your processes, what you now put in your contracts because of past mistakes. You want to make sure you have all these things that you're doing differently. How you price differently when you sense higher friction or complexity. I call them fuck you prices. I give a person a price and it's basically fuck you if you don't want it, or I'm fucking you if you take the job because I don't want to work for you. And if it's going to be a nightmare to work for you, I'm giving you the fuck you price. And it's either I'm fucking you on the price and I'm overcharging you by way more than I should, but if you're dumb enough to take it, I'll deal with your bullshit, or fuck you, don't take it. I didn't want your damn job anyway. It's not the right train of thought all the time, but it's my way of doing things. How you teach your team in office what a good versus bad fit looks like. You know, they need to know what a good and bad fit are, not only you, because they need to know that their input is appreciated. You know, you might see it from one angle, but you got 3-4 other eyes on the whole situation from the beginning, and they might say, Rick, this is gonna go just like that other job. This lady makes me feel like A, B, and C is gonna happen. And you don't have to do what they say, but you should listen and maybe do what they say, because you're getting a separate outsider's opinion, you know, someone that's involved in your company, someone that's involved in your day-to-day business, and they're looking out for your, not only your best interest, but their best interest and your team's best interest, you know? And you might want to tell the customers some of your war stories as education, not just trauma. You might want to tell the customer and your crew, look, we've had this happen in the past. I'm not trying to scare you off, but I'm trying to tell you, look, we've been down this road. I don't think you're going to be like that, but I just want to make sure it's a non-negotiable. We won't work for you if these things happen. You know, my customer experiences over the years have definitely changed my intake process, the way I write my contracts and who I say yes to. I'm a lot pickier with who I choose to work with. It's not all about the money. You know, there's a million jobs out there and my guys do great work. So, you know I'm going to please the customer, whoever they are. So I'm a lot pickier on who I take as a customer. I've walked away from $1 million renovations because it should have been 1.1 or 1.2 million. I'm not going to leave $100,000 or $200,000 on the table. You know, I've had customers tell me, this is $1 million I'm giving you. Yeah, but it's going to cost me 1.2 to fix your house. You know, you got a 7,000 square foot house. It's going to cost me $1 million just to break even, maybe. I'm not going to make a profit, but they want to, oh, it's $1 million. Oh, well, I don't want it. And I walked away. And to this day, that job still hasn't been done. And that was 4 years ago. I want you to think of something too here. Imagine if you only worked with your good customer types for the next year. How different would your life and business feel? How much would you want to get up every morning? How much would you love going to work again? How much would your crew have better production? How much would all of these things be affected if you just worked for the good customer types? Now, is that possible? Probably not, but you can make it 70, 80% more possible. You can weed out, if you can weed out 10, 20, 30% of the shitty customers, you could probably make your life a lot better, business and personal. And remember, you're not just in the construction business, you're in the people business, whether you like it or not. Great customers make you better. Tough customers teach you expensive lessons. Use both to refine your filters and systems. Most customers' problems can be reduced with clear expectations, strong contracts, and like I said before, early boundaries. Your sanity, your team, and your reputation are more valuable than any single project. Walk away from the wrong people when you have to. At the end of the day, being a general contractor isn't just about square footage and schedules. It's about dealing with real humans and real life situations. Some clients will remind you why you love this game, and some will test every bit of your fucking patience that you have. But not an option means we don't let the tough ones break us. It's not an option. We do not let them break us. We learn, we adjust, we build better boundaries, better systems, and better versions of ourselves. If this episode hit home, share it with another contractor or business owner who's dealing with their own mix of good and tough customers. This is our 8th episode. I look forward to seeing you next time. Again, please smash that subscribe button, hit that like button, and please share this with your friends and other contractors. Thank you very much.